Start
Okay.
now.
All right. I'll start with the intro script. So, welcome to the January meeting of the Equity Advisory Committee. I want to acknowledge that COVID-19 is causing us to alter our usual procedures, and we've invited residents of the region to participate in this meeting virtually. The Met Council has determined it's not practical or prudent to conduct an in-person meeting at this time due to the ongoing public health crisis. Accordingly, Met Council members and committee members will participate in this meeting by phone or electronic means, and will be conducted under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. Before we call this meeting to order, I just have a few quick reminders about WebEx and the virtual meeting process. First, please remain muted unless speaking. And then when you are ready to speak, if you're joining both from your phone and computer, like you're joining one for the audio and one for the visual, please just unmute one device when you're ready to speak, because otherwise there can be some feedback. And it's helpful if you announce your name when you start speaking, just so we know who's talking. And at least for me, sometimes I have to navigate around several blocks to see who's talking. So if you could say your name, that is great. When we do have a voting item, we will do a roll call vote, and Lila assists us with that. So she'll call roll when it's time to vote on something. And because this is a public meeting, we prefer that all of our conversation be verbal so that it can be recorded and be posted to the public later. If you have a technical question, like you're having trouble seeing the screen or you're getting blocked out of something, you can put that in the chat. We can address those technical questions in the chat, but all of the discussion in our discussion items, please make a verbal discussion. And one thing that Councilmember Gonzalez and I try to do as co-chairs is monitor if anyone's hand goes up so that we can see, oh, someone has something to say. But if we miss that, you can please feel free to say, this is Leah and I have something I'd like to add. That's going to be just fine too. You could also put in the chat, hey, I have a question or I have something to say, and we'll kind of keep an eye on that as well. And this meeting is being recorded and will be made available online. I think that's it. Lila's going to help us monitor the chat, so reach out to her if you have any technical issues, and she's going to put her phone number in the chat too, so you have that. And that's the beginning of the script. Now I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Gonzalez to call us to order.
Thank you. We'd like to see if we have quorum first. Do we have quorum at this time?
I can take attendance. Quorum is 11. And let me see.
Yeah, if you want to call roll call so we know if we have quorum for today.
Okay, sounds good. Give me just a quick moment here to pull up the attendance roster. Okay. First member is Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Sterner. Michael Lucini. T. Wei. Nicholas Jenkins. Anita Irvina Davis.
Here.
Patrick Cheetah. Edward McDonald.
Here.
Andrea Jenkins. Leah Goldstein Moses.
Here.
Zabat Awed.
Here.
Melinda Lee. Jen Owens.
Here.
Mary Ann Padua. Brianne Rothstein. Stephanie Scheider.
Here.
Betsy Sitkoff,
Here.
Kristen Stacy,
Here.
and we do have quorum tonight.
Thank you. Good job, everyone. And I thank you for joining us tonight, and I will call this meeting to order. And since we have quorum at this time, we have to address the issue of approval of the minutes. And we have to approve the minutes from the last 4 meetings. So I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes from October 19th, November 16th, December 21. I think those are the 3 meetings that we're missing, not 4. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last 3 meetings?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Edward,
This is Anita. I second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Seeing none, I will just ask Alara to do the roll call again.
Okay, just a second.
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. Takes just a second to pull up the roster. Okay. Councilmember Francisco Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Chai Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Philip Sterner. Michael Lucini. TUA. Nicholas Jenkins. Anita Irvina Davis.
I'd like a point of clarification. Are we voting on the motion or are we doing attendance? I heard some hears.
This is the motion to approve the minutes from the last 3 meetings.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought. I thought I heard some people say here. I'm sorry. I approve.
Patrick Cheetah. Edward McDonald.
approve.
Andrea Jenkins. Leah Goldstein Moses.
Approve.
Zabat Awed.
Approve.
Melinda Lee. Jen Owens.
Approve.
Mary Ann Padua. Brianne Rothstein. Stephanie Scheider.
Approved.
Betsy Sitkoff.
Approve.
Kristen Stacy.
Approved.
All right, we have approved minutes.
Excellent. Motion carries. And thank you very much. It's helpful for us to be able to address the technical part of our meetings before going into the substantive part. So thank you. So next, we will take a few minutes and see if any members of the public have contacted the council regarding addressing topics not on the agenda. Do we have any members from the public that want to address?
I have not been notified.
Okay. For the new members, again, this is the space that we have available in case folks from the community who are not part of the AAC but have an issue that they want to bring before us. This is the space that we set aside for folks to to share their thoughts with the EAC. Next, as part of our ongoing support to the EAC subcommittees, we'll ask any of the subcommittees that might have any updates to give us a brief recap of their work.
So I serve on the operations subcommittee, and I can say that in the last month, we did not meet or move work forward. And a little later in the agenda, we'll talk about some of the accomplishments for the year. I noticed that that none of the members of our transportation subcommittee are here this evening. Right now, our member who is on the transportation subcommittee is T. Wei, and she isn't here yet. And for our affordable housing subcommittee, I think, Edward, you are the only member of your committee here at this point. So if you have an update from the affordable housing subcommittee, you could feel free to share one.
Madam Chair, I did not hear from the chair of the committee, but if you like, I can give you what I know, unless we just want to wait until she returns, and I'm sure she'll give a full report at that time.
That sounds good. I know she's not going to be here this evening, and I do have some just general updates in our presentation that we're going to use a little later today, so we could use that and you could fill in any blanks if you have any.
All right, let's do that.
Okay, great. So we will move on from this agenda item.
Thank you. And next on our agenda, we would like to welcome our new and our returning members. And what we thought, Leah and I thought it would be useful is for all of us, not just the new members, but all of us, we'll give just a quick introduction, no more than 2 minutes, just basically stating your name, your date, time, occupation, if applicable, and also what drove you to join the EAC. So that would be a way for us to get to know a little bit about each other at this time. So I think I'm just going to start myself. Again, my name is Francisco Gonzalez, and I'm the co-chair of the EAC, and I am also a member of the Met Council representing District 12, which is Washington County. On my day job, I am the director of the Office of Equality and Civil Rights for the Minneapolis Public Schools District. And when I first joined the council and the prior chair asked for folks to sign up to different standing committees within the Met Council, I signed up right away for the EAC because this is an area that is both personal and professional relevance to me. So I have enjoyed every single minute that I've been here at the EAC since March 2019, and I look forward to working with all of you. So thank you. Leah, you want to go next?
Yes, that sounds good. So I am Leah Goldstein Moses. I have been on the EAC since October of 2019, I believe, maybe 2018. And I've been co-chair since April of 2021. I was asked to apply for the EAC by a friend who worked at the Met Council in the communications department. And the more I looked into it, the more excited I was about the opportunity to serve on the EAC. I have a background in urban and regional planning, really appreciate looking at challenges and opportunities from a metro-wide perspective and thinking about ways that we can really support the quality of life for all of our residents by working together and being thoughtful, and have loved the work of the EAC in influencing some policies and practices and bringing some community voice to decisions. So welcome for those of you who are new, and nice to see you, those of you who've been with us for a while.
Excellent. Chai, you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Francisco. Hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. I'm a council member for the east side of St. Paul, the the eastern half of St. Paul, and the first ranked cities just south of St. Paul, District 13. I've been on the AC along with Francisco since March of 2019 when we were both seated on the Met Council together. And I look forward to working with all the new members. So welcome.
Okay. Let's see. Betsy, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you. Hi, I'm Betsy Sitkoff, and I'm new this year and excited to be here. So thank you. And I have my work over the last many years has been primarily in violence prevention, both relationship and community-wide. And then the last few years, I've done some work in anti-racism. I've specifically, a lot of my work has been done with immigrant and refugee communities. So basing my experience working with other communities, I've done some anti-racism work as it pertains to violence prevention and relationships and things like that. And what draws me here is equity has always been the guiding force with all my work, but it's been in social services and human capacity. And I'm really looking forward to have an opportunity to look at more infrastructure and housing and transportation. So this is all new to me, and I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you.
Excellent. I'm just following the way in which folks appear on my screen. The next one is a phone number 6126, last two digits 88. I don't know who that is.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Hi, everyone. My name is Melinda Lee. I'm dialing in, and I go by they, them pronouns. I am the lead organizer for community prosperity here at the Coalition of Asian American Leaders. I'm very excited to be serving in this role with you all and alongside you. I am passionate about justice, social justice, and increasing access for underrepresented communities, under-resourced communities, and I see this as a great privilege to be able to help inform the decisions at the Met Council. So thank you for choosing me and having me, and I'm an excited, fresh, new member of the council. Thanks.
Thank you, Melinda. Anita, you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Anita Arena Davis. I came onto the EAC at the same time as Leah, and I am a former chair of the Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights. I am retired from Hennepin County Environmental Services. I became interested in EAC not just for the civil rights issue, but I am actively involved in North Minneapolis, in the city of Minneapolis, on environmental justice issues. And since the Metropolitan Council oversees the water issue, or the environmental water facilities in St. Paul, East St. Paul, I did some work with them when they had the new burners created about maybe 4 years ago. And so I've been, as I said, actively involved in environmental justice issues. And so also with the Minneapolis Police, and I sit as part of the EAC committee on the Metropolitan Transportation Police issues right now. And currently they're hearing testimony on whether there should be uniformed officers on public transportation or not. And so right now we're meeting once a month, twice a month, and discussing those issues. So welcome all to the new members.
Excellent. Thank you. Next, following the line on my monitor, I'm going to ask Ashanti. Ashanti is a staff member. He's not a community member, but I'm just going to ask Ashanti to introduce himself.
Thanks, Francisco. Ashanti Payne. I am the Assistant Director currently with the Office of Equal Opportunity at the Metropolitan Council. Prior to coming to the council, I was with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for 27 years, serving in similar capacities. I've been involved in external civil rights programs, administration, management for the length of those years. So it's an honor to be in a position to assist and be a resource for this committee. And I hope that you call on me and whenever possible.
Thank you. Edward, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Edward McDonald. I'm the Executive Director of the East Metro Civic Alliance, and our work primarily focuses on ensuring equal access and opportunity for all in the East Metro. I am the representative on the EAC for the Washington County District. I've been involved, I think I'm going into my second year. I love my involvement in it and bringing what expertise I can to the work we do around equity. I'm enjoying working with my colleagues that are involved in this advisory group. It's learning something each time we meet. And since I've been here, we've made a lot of progress, and I'm excited about the future. So looking to making great things happen in 2022.
Excellent. Jen, you want to go next?
My name is Jen Owens, and I am a small business owner. I do a lot of public education and issues around human rights. I learned about this position from Liz Lee, I believe. She had mentioned the Metropolitan Council. She's a representative running for some position on the east side. I can't remember which district, but, and I just went to the website and then found out about the committee, but she had mentioned some work. So yeah, I do a lot of different things from different perspectives and work in various different issues impacting COVID-19 pandemic in societies today. And I'm very excited to be here. I'm a new member, and thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Kristen, you want to go next?
Hi, let's start a video here. My name's Kristen. I'm a new member.
Mhm.
I applied for this because I work for the city of Brooklyn Park in the elections, and that's something that I also studied was global studies and ethics and humanities. So I wanted to get more involved in the metro area, dealing with equity and inclusion. This is the first meeting of anything of this sort, so I'm happy to be here, and thank you.
Excellent. Lila, she's also one of our staff members. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Lila El-Tawili. I am the the Enterprise Equity Senior Manager. I work with Ashanti in our department, which is the Office of Equal Opportunity. And I, along with our entire team, we are responsible for advancing equity around the organization in multiple capacities. And one of those is supporting the EAC and the work that the EAC does. Thank you.
Excellent. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Scheider. I am an educator of 12 years, teaching in 2nd and 3rd grade for 4 and 6th or 8th grade for about 8. I also do a business aside, business in regards of selling my curriculum, a year-long curriculum for young girls to create a space for leadership opportunities and using their voice to create, opportunities and events within their own school building. I'm really interested in the Equity Council because I'm interested in education policy or how we can continue to work with students of, the Black and Latino backgrounds, and how we can enforce the change in what we would like to see for their education in regards of curriculum. And I just like to be in different venues or rooms to help me understand what's going on behind the scenes, so I can get more of an understanding of how I could push that narrative forward. I heard about the Equity Council through BCLI, and I was able to interview and be a part of this mission, so I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. Vanessa, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, my name is.
Vanessa, I don't think we can hear you now. Vanessa? Okay. Let's see. Let's see if we can get her back. But in the meantime, Sabat, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Sabat Awed, and I think it's an honor and a privilege, and I'm really humbled to be here, to be able to be part of this great audience and hopefully learn. And I think for me, what actually drew me to EAC was after George Floyd. I was sitting in my living room just asking myself, what am I going to do to make things different? And I decided to go back to school. And at the Metro State, we have a program called MAPO. And then we had someone that was from the Metro Council that came to do a presentation and kind of spoke about what you guys do. And I went looking and I got really interested, because I think for me, I have passion, and I think I breathe it every day, trying to make sure that we bring racial equity in policy work, and also making sure that we improve in community engagement. So I'm excited on this new journey, hopefully hoping to learn and grow, and hoping to make sure that I can take some great feedback or knowledge that I gained from you back to the community.
Excellent, thank you. And Marianne, we're doing quick introductions. If you can just say your name, your daytime position, if applicable, and also what drove you to apply for the EAC.
Hi, my name is Marianne Padua. What brought me to EAC is that it's about advocacy for me, and I'm really very passionate about advocacy, and especially since I've learned a lot about in housing, and in just a lot of the different view about being a member of the community, where disparity issues of where the different racial disparities, especially in the community. When I went back to college, where I became a student senate vice president and president after the year after, of 10,000 students, disparity issues is a big part of that community. And so learning how to be easy to learn, learning how to take care of that issue is quite it's quite a thing to handle. And so and then when I got into an accident and I became a person with disability, I had to go through that as a victim of disparity, and now I want to be able to be a part of the solution, and that's why I want to be a part of our group and be a part of that solution.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me check again with Vanessa. If she's available. Vanessa,
Hi,
can
I'm
you hear?
here. Can you hear me?
Yes, excellent. So,
Hi, great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
yeah.
I am excited. I'm so excited to be a part of the committee. And so my full-time job, I work for the Social Security Administration. I've been with the agency for a long time,
Mhm.
working with those that have disability. And then I also volunteer for a nonprofit. I'm the program manager at Restoration Incorporated, which works with victims of domestic violence. So a lot of advocacy in my background. And then just like so many of you guys already said, just, with so many people and the disparity, just wanting to come alongside you guys and help and learn and grow. So that's why I'm here. And thank you again for giving me another chance to speak.
Oh, no problem. Am I missing anyone who I haven't called to be introduced? No? Okay. Thank you very much. And I just want to say real quick that when Leah and I and Chai and some of the other folks from staff had the opportunity to interview the applicants for the for the open positions at the EAC, and also look at the information that they share about their background, experience, and interests. And I personally was overwhelmed by the quality and the interest and the skills of the folks that we interviewed and that we eventually selected to join the EAC. So we're very glad to have you on board, and we look forward to working with you. Well, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, and this is the discussion that we're going to have about the Equity Advisory Committee processes. And this is part of our ongoing activities in preparation for moving forward with plans for the new year and beyond. So I'm just going to turn this over to Leah to take us on that journey.
Thank you so much. And for our new members, some of you got to participate in an orientation last week, and some of you weren't able to participate. Today, we're going to give a little bit of background about what we've been working on and what we hope to work on in the year ahead. If you are feeling like you want a little bit more detail and you didn't get a chance to participate in the orientation, we are going to work to schedule a follow-up so that you'll have that opportunity. So I'm going to share my screen. Do you see something that says EAC work in 2022?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So I'm going to start by just acknowledging what we are charged with, and this statement comes from our bylaws. I'm going to share, as you're reading it, a little bit of my personal knowledge and history of this committee. I've been very lucky to have been mentored by a former council member, Gary Cunningham, who really was one of the people who recognized the need for this committee and worked with community members to form this committee with the idea that it be focused on driving forward policies and practices at the Met Council that would lead to equitable outcomes. You'll see here that sits right in our charge, that we will advise the council regarding the development of policy and appropriate processes, that will be doing some assessing and monitoring of the council's performance against these policies to advance equity in the region. And sometimes the council will request us to provide advice regarding various policy issues. So you'll see on our agendas on a regular basis that we have policy issues brought to us to give feedback on and provide advice. And then we also bring additional policy topics to the committee for the council's consideration. So we've seen our committee members raise issues that they want us to address, and we've also had staff members or council members bring issues to us. In 2021, I'm going to share a little bit about what some of our priorities were and what we accomplished. And I'll take this a little bit slowly, but I'm also not going to read every word. So this is in your packet if you'd like to refer to it. As I mentioned, in 2021, we did a lot of our work through subcommittees. And in particular, we had subcommittees focused on affordable housing, transportation, and operations. And then we also did a bunch of our work in the EAC meetings themselves and in some other efforts. For example, Anita mentioned that she has served as the EAC's representative on a committee that's looking at safety on transit. Our affordable housing focus area, we highlighted some, our work plan for 2021 talked about holding regional convenings on affordable housing and contributing to the housing plan update. Some of the things that we worked on as a full EAC and in the subcommittee is that we informed some special funding opportunities where the council had funds earmarked for equity projects, and we made some recommendations around those earmarked projects. And then we also made recommendations for LHIA pilot project, which is looking at increasing home ownership for people who have historically not had, who've been prevented from owning homes and building equity in their homes. I think we have one member of our Affordable Housing Committee subcommittee here this evening. Edward, if you'd like to add anything else related to either priorities or accomplishments, I'd love to open that up for you.
No, Madam Chair, you covered it all very well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Related to public transportation, we had some priorities around informing decision-making, improving some tracking systems, building a relationship with the Transportation Advisory Board, and working more directly with Metro Transit on equity-related goals. And we accomplished a lot, both in our meetings and through our subcommittee and other efforts. There is an equity manager in Metro Transit that we've built a relationship with, and that has come to our committee meetings, I think twice now, to work with us on various issues, including providing, she came and talked to us about a definition of equity that is going to be adopted at Metro Transit, and we gave some input related to that definition. We gave input on the Rapid Transit Community Engagement Plans. And as Anita mentioned earlier, we also contributed to transit safety planning. And I'll pause there and see if there's any members of our committee that have anything else to add related to what we focused on for public transportation. All right, hearing none. One other area of focus we had was to look at how our work could be done in partnership with other efforts at the Met Council and then outside of the council as well. So for example, hearing where the council was partnering with other entities and providing some updates and information for those partnerships and supporting some of the equity initiatives that were happening inside the council. One way that we supported this goal was there has been a BIPOC committee formed at the Met Council, and we collaborated with the person who's chairing that committee, Councilmember Chris Ferguson, to hear a little bit about what they were focusing on and provide some input. And I don't know, Councilmember Lee or Councilmember Gonzalez, if there's anything else you'd like to add about the BIPOC committee or other efforts we did related to One Metro partnerships.
I can add some of my perspectives, and Chai, please feel free to. The BIPOC community subcommittee was created just in order to address or present, like big picture policy issues on equity to the council. And this is basically the idea of Councilmember Chris Ferguson, who's been at the forefront of pushing forward. One of the main areas that the BIPOC group has been addressing is regarding the economic reach of the council, both in providing opportunities for vendors from underserved communities to do business with the council, but also on the employment side, whether we are hiring, retaining, and promoting folks from the BIPOC communities within the Met Council. So there has been some very good conversations that we had with Chair Selly and regional administrator, and also with staff on all these issues. So I'm pretty sure that Councilmember Ferguson and others will like to come here periodically to address the EAC members with initiatives from the BIPOC group.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not really. I think Francisco covered it all. When we first started, we were meeting, I think, every other week, but now we decided to go on a more kind of a ad hoc meeting. We convene when there's some other issues on the agenda that the chair would like to talk about.
Great. And then our last area of focus for 2021 was on council operations, and some of our priorities there were to review the council's diversity and inclusion strategy and review two programs. One is called DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and one is called MCUP. That might not be how they pronounce it inside the council. And both are designed to increase contracting and purchasing from businesses owned by historically underrepresented groups. So some of the things that we did in that realm of work is we reviewed the council's affirmative action plan and reviewed its contracting and employment data as part of its planned dashboard and in some work it was doing with the management committee. We informed some ideas for using those equity special allocation funds to improve contracting. We recommended an audit of the council's efforts around contracting, and we began planning for an event to build relationships between businesses and the managers who purchase or contract with those businesses.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just, for folks who aren't familiar with the acronyms, so DB and MCUB are kind of basically the same thing. DB is Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, and that is a federal designation. And then MCUB is what we call our internal program at the Met Council. That's Met Council Underutilized Business. Just so folks know what the acronyms are.
Thank you. I also, while I'm sharing my screen, I can't see if anyone has their hands up. So I'm going to pause and see, are there any questions before I move on to talk a little bit about the future?
I have a question. Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
It's Mary Ann Padua. It's funny how interesting. I have actually just met someone today, and they own a business, and they're from from out of this country, and they've been here for 3 years. And they really are in, and from this pandemic crisis where it's hard enough to create a business, and they've been having a hard time. The lawyers have been dropping them, even though they've been paying money to the lawyers, and yet they couldn't get anywhere trying to get the sponsors and getting their green card and to process. And now they're worried about that. Now, I'm trying to say is that, is there a grant for these people, for this business? Because, they're trying so hard to keep up with the business where they just started, even though they've been here for 3 years. It seems not fair that the lawyers that they put up their money to try to get their green card just walked away with their money. And lawyers who are citizens of this country. And it's not fair that they get to walk away and they get to be sent home because of an and in this pandemic, that seems unfair solution for their business.
Marian, that's a great question. Unfortunately, with the immigration and visa issue, that's a federal jurisdiction that the Met Council doesn't have any control over. However, if and when they do get the business established, I'm sure our staff will be glad to work with them to help them understand our process and how they can become an MCUP contractor or vendor. But they would have to get the business established first.
Okay.
I think that Jen, did you have your hand up? Or somebody else? I think I saw somebody raising their hand with a comment. No?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
There,
Can I
Chair,
just say one? I'm sorry. Can I just say one more thing? And these are minorities who's trying to get their family in this country, and they came in as a business partner, and all their money were going out the window, but their business are running fine. Lawyers who promised
If I
them.
may, I just want to echo what Chai said about that not being part of
Sorry.
what we can do. But I'm a former immigration law attorney, and I had represented many clients on situations like this. I'm just going to say this briefly. The immigration process for entrepreneurs, it's very complicated, and you need all kinds of documents and processes, not only with Homeland Security, but also with the Department of, in some cases, the Department of Labor, depending on what type of business you're trying to create and how much money you are bringing in into the U.S. I'm sorry that they're facing so many issues, but again, there's no other way than contacting a good immigration attorney that can help you navigate with that. I mean, that's not a process that any individual should do on their own. And I myself, not having worked on immigration law for at least 10 years, I will not touch a case like that. The law has changed and you need an expert. So that would be my advice in this case. But thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I just direct her to the chat space? There are 3 organizations that I listed in here that work with immigrant businesses that might be of some assistance to the business enterprise you're talking about if they have not, even helping them to access lawyers who are really truly committed to helping them get what they need done. And I put them in the chat
We
for
don't.
you, and you can grab them there. That'd be fine.
Edward, do you mind re-chatting them? I don't see them yet in the chat. So if you re-put them in.
I did it directly to Mary, but they are. I'll just read them out loud. Neighborhood Development Center is one.
Okay.
Metropolitan Economic Development Association, and African Development Solutions.
Okay.
They do it. And if you contact any of the ethnic chambers, they can also assist you. If it happens to be a business that is operated by a person with a disabilities, you can go to Disability Council and they can help you navigate all of that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is one of the areas that I like to see with the EAC, how we can work and support each other. So this is, again, part of what we like to do here at the EAC.
I'd like to just share that we want to try to share as much as possible in the conversation versus the chat. Members of the public may not be able to see the chat function. So,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they live in Washington County, and
Okay.
Great. I'm going to go on to share the next little bit of the presentation, and likewise after the next slide, I'll pause and see if that raises other questions or comments. This was a great conversation so far. So back in November, we gathered some ideas for 2022 about what we might focus on this coming year. And as we go on to construct our work plan for the year, I wanted to share some of these ideas that were raised back in November by our members and see if there's any other things that come to mind for you. So the first area that was shared was to ensure that the Met Council is operating in a way that demonstrates equity, that hiring, retention, and advancement of employees from protected groups increases and improves, and that we're seeing more spending of contract dollars and purchasing from entrepreneurs that come from underutilized groups. And that was further added to by saying this would include taking steps to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses through support, collaboration with other organizations, and clear guidance. Some of those organizations that Edward just mentioned are examples of ones that we might collaborate with as an example. Another thing that was raised in November was having some common definitions, terms, and targets that will support equity. So for us to feel confident that as we're using language, we understand what each other means, we're pausing to use terms that make sense to each other, and we're careful in our definitions that we're using so that we know that we are working towards the same goals. Another idea that came up was to keep working on our 2021 priorities with recognizing that we have even more urgency than we did a year ago, that our disparities that we were seeing a year ago have been exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. The increasing community mobilization that arose out of George Floyd's murder really increased our attention and awareness of some of the issues that our community faces. And with the expected flow of federal funds to our region, we have an opportunity that is at risk, and that opportunity to make sure those dollars and investments are made in a way that puts equity at the forefront and really leads to equitable outcomes. And then another area that arose was to address how our advice gets received and implemented by staff and the council. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions or ideas that emerge from this that you'd like to share at this point? I'm going to stop sharing so I can see hands being up.
Kristen?
Yeah. So my question with that last section would be, how would we say we had an idea for like what I would call an agenda item for like a meeting? How would we submit that or go about bringing that up?
Great question. One way you can do that is through coming to the standing committee meetings. Those are the week after our EAC meetings, and we set the agenda for the following EAC meetings at that standing committee meeting. So that could be one way, is attending those meetings. Another way is by joining one of our subcommittees, our transportation, housing, or operations subcommittee.
I think that Leah froze. Just to follow up on what she said, so we have the internal standing committees within the EAC, plus we have the standing committee in which we discuss agenda items for the next EAC general meeting. For kind of more strategic issues such as the work plan for the coming year, you can use any of those forums to bring your ideas, and we definitely will take that into account. I think we're going to be working more on fine tuning the work plan for this coming year. So I think we'll have additional opportunities to get input from folks as to how to what areas to work on in the future. I'm just gonna say that like in 2019, when we went through this whole process, many of the issues that we thought important back then, the COVID epidemic and the resistance after the murder of George Floyd, that kind of upended what we thought would be the most important issues for 2020 and 2021. So that's a long way of saying that we can always revisit our work plan if there's a new situation that develops or a new challenge that we think we can address. So this always is a work in progress, and definitely we want everybody's input as we move forward. So thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that my computer crashed while I was in the middle, and Francisco, thank you for picking that up. I also now can't access my documents anymore, so I apologize. But are there other questions or reflections on our work plan?
This is Edward. I like the idea that we're going to try and tackle the terminology piece, because just hearing from a person who is differently abled or with a disability, using that acronym BIPOC doesn't admit them. I think generally you could draw the assumption that there are Black, Indigenous, people of color who have disability, and it's in there. But under the state definition of protected groups, it specifically lists persons with disabilities. Business enterprises owned by a person with disability as a protected group. So again, that there are people, for example, in my community that identify themselves as African American and Black, and those are both identifiers that are constitutionally established through the input of that segment of the nation's population, and then documented within the work that the census does, which is constitutionally driven. the long and short of it is, a lot of times we are pulled in the direction of using terms that actually steer us away from the laws that guarantee marginalized or disadvantaged, or as some would title them, or people of color or BIPOC people, away from the technical application of the law. And I would hope that even though we worked on affirmative action, equal opportunity contract procurement, equal opportunity and contract procurement, human rights enforcement this year, that becomes the center or the core of our work, because that is really where equity is achieved, is through the administrative application of those laws. Affirmative action, contracting, equal opportunity and contracting, and the enforcement of those things through the administrative application of the law. And so the further you move away from that, the more you give people inside that don't want to achieve those things by clouding the use of terminology and other kind of things. You don't get there. And those laws have been on the books since the civil rights movement, some 60 years now. And quite honestly, if you think about it in theory, if you are in compliance with the administrative application of equal access and opportunity laws, you should not be having the amount of disparities that exist, because in theory those laws are to achieve access and opportunity for everyone. And the result of that would be parity for all people, regardless of how they're constructed. So I would hope that in our plan, that at the core of the work to achieve absolute equity with what the Met Council does, those three areas are three of our primary focus areas, and our work center around those.
Jen, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, yes, I was going to say I'm happy to be on the EAC to see, because a lot of through my small business, a lot of the things and information at a local, state, and federal level for people that are having different issues, I have kind of informed those decisions by bringing diverse, for people that have been impacted from communities of color, starting with the African American community. So I'm excited to be on the EAC. My program has been preventative, number one, by educating the public, and then also by bringing diverse perspectives to issues. And I've seen it be implemented at the local, state, and also the federal level, where they take victim-centered approach to addressing these issues and things of that nature. So I'm excited to see how the EAC can support some of the work that I'm doing. And thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Leah?
Maybe we could go on to the last slide. However, I can't present it because my computer crashed. I'm wondering, Lila, are you able to present the next slide in the deck? Oh, thank you. I think it's called the processes, EAC processes. I'm not sure.
Greg, it's the other one. It's the one, EAC processes. Let me see if yes. Yep.
Thank you.
the EAC Work in 2022 PDF.
And this is why we have support staff
Yes.
from the council, because without these folks, I don't think we can do half the work that we could accomplish. So thank you to all the staff.
So Greg, if you could go to slide, I think it's 4 or maybe 5. Okay. Yes, this one on structured, how we are structured. Can you make it a little bigger? Sure. Sure. So several,
Excellent.
yeah, thank you so much. Several of these things we covered already that were structured. We have subcommittees that dig into issues more deeply. We use our standing committee, which everyone is invited to, and you just show up, and we use that to identify issues we should be addressing as a committee. And then, and then we use our meetings to, sometimes we get presentations, sometimes we give advice, sometimes we discuss issues. And our meetings are the place where we can see, sometimes we try and reach consensus about things that we're giving advice about. And Greg, can you scroll down? Yeah, that would be great. So we do have a couple asks for our members, and this is for everyone that's here this evening. One thing we'd really like to ask your help in, as Francisco and I were talking, is to advocate for full Met Council participation in our committee. Currently, we have Councilmember Gonzalez and Councilmember Lee have been active on our committee. We have one vacancy on our committee, which is known, and then we have another council member who doesn't usually attend our meetings. And so for those of you that are interested in building a relationship with your council member, we would love if you'd reach out to them, see if they're interested in joining our committee, and really encourage them to participate in the Met Council, in our EAC.
Yeah.
And then another change that we are looking for, and we are going to be discussing this with Francisco and I will be discussing this with the regional administrator in the next couple weeks, is we would like to advocate for a change in how we are staffed so that our recommendations and giving advice go directly to the regional administrator rather than through the current EEO office. That way we can have a little bit of a broader impact on policy than we're currently having.
And I might just interject real quickly. It's not that we don't appreciate or like the folks from the EEO office. So we love you all, guys, but it's just that in order for the current process that we have to forward recommendations or to issue requests from the council, it's very cumbersome, and we have to go through several not very well established routes to get our input up the chain of command, and also to get some feedback from the council. So we're just trying to streamline that process by having like a one point of contact, which the regional administrator's office should be ideal if we can get that. Again, so we just have one point of contact where we can submit recommendations, etc., and also to have one point of contact that can reach down to the EAC with with feedback, etc. So that's the context for that particular item.
Thank you. Another item where we'd love everybody's participation is in contributing to shaping our 2022 work plan. And we'll pause for a little bit at the end of today's conversation to hear what else you'd like to see on our work plan. And then to please consider participating in a subcommittee, which will bring topics forward that we should be addressing. After the meeting, I'll follow up by email with some opportunities to participate and connect with the right people on those subcommittees. So you don't have to declare your interest right now unless you already know your interest, but please do watch for that email and let us know where you'd like to participate. And then the final thing is Councilmember Gonzalez and I have been working on making some updates to the bylaws. A summary of those updates were included in your packet for this evening. We're not going to go over them in detail this evening. We decided earlier this year that Francisco and I would be responsible for taking those bylaws across the finish line and getting them updated. But we would love your feedback. And so if you have any feedback, I welcome a phone call or an email with your input and ideas. Hopefully by February 4th, if possible. So then Francisco and I can use that feedback to finalize and move the bylaws forward. So that was a lot. Go ahead.
No, just briefly, and some of the changes to the bylaws are on a technical of a technical nature. So when you see the draft that we already sent everyone, you will notice that. But if you have any questions about the background as to why we're recommending that particular change, again, you can reach out to me or to Leah, because I want folks to be fully informed as we move forward with amending the bylaws. So thank you.
Thank you. This wraps up the presentation part, and now we'd love to move into some discussion. And we had a couple items to start us off. I am going to move to my computer as we get started, but now that it's back online. But I wanted to start by hearing what other ideas do you have for our work plan in 2022, things that you'd like to make sure we prioritize as a committee?
Leah, I think Marianne had her hand up.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're not gonna have bylaws committees for that instead.
Can you repeat that, Marianne? I only caught part of that.
So you're not gonna have form a bylaws committee?
At our, I think it was our September meeting, it was brought forward by our membership that the co-chairs should take that responsibility on. However, we do really welcome engagement in it. So if you would like to meet with me outside of the meeting and share your input, I would definitely welcome it and use that in the final. And Francisco and I will use that in the final version.
Well, how is it? Do you guys audit that? How many times? Like every year or every 5 years?
I would need to rely on someone with longer history than me. And I think actually Anita and I might be the ones with the longest history here. I don't believe the bylaws have been updated since they were first developed in 2015. So it's not a very frequent process.
I see.
Yeah. You're correct in that, Leah, if you don't mind me speaking. It was brought up when we did have our day retreat, our full day retreat, when we talked about creating the groups that we have now, the currently subcommittees that we have now. We talked about the bylaws then, but we never really went fully into them.
Okay. Well, all right. It's just that I think bylaws are quite important, that I think a committee should be something that should be formed to do take care of these bylaws.
Marian, the other historical context is the EAC is actually the newest or youngest committee of the whole Met Council. It's only been around 5 or 6 years at most, and so this is actually our very first time, probably as our own body reviewing our own bylaws. And I think for the sake of time and efficiency, we thought it was more efficient to have the co-chairs to have a first stab at it, and then from tonight's agenda, now the rest of us have we can give them a second opinion before the 4th of February.
Madam Chair.
I mean, I'm not saying that I mean, both of you are not capable of doing that. It's just that, well, I mean, I guess you guys made your decisions already, but okay. I guess that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Edward. I tend to side with Mary in that bylaws are huge. I mean, they, set the stage for the operations of this committee, and just subtly and unconsciously, to leave it in the hands of a couple people that to bring forth recommendations on modification of those can also feel like, an authoritarian type of operation. The co-chairs are bringing those forward and making recommendations. I'm not saying that is the case. I have a lot of trust in what you and Francisco do, but typically in any organization or any committee, particularly one like this, you do invite more of the members to the table to basically do a thorough examination and the quantification around or the justification for any modifications to it. So it does create the appearance to me subtly that that's a lot of power you're vesting in just two people who also have a lot of power as chair and co-chair of the committee. And it's uncommon for me, but if that's the way people want to go, but it sounds like Mary, and there might be others who would want to participate in learning about the bylaws, looking at the justification you have for any recommendations that you're bringing forward now, and giving those a thorough examination, and then being able to work with you to present the best options for modifying them.
Because bylaws, I mean, you even have Attorney General usually representing auditing bylaws. You can't just do it in two people. I mean, honestly, that's a lot of discussion there.
I see Anita has her hand up. Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to add some background information of why we haven't gotten to bylaws yet. When we had our full day retreat and created the subcommittees, it was based on the fact that there were members on the EAC who were frustrated because they didn't understand or didn't know what the purpose was, their individual purpose of being an EAC member. So we created the subcommittees, and just soon after we created the subcommittees to move forward, the pandemic hit. And so before that, our subcommittee members were able to meet face-to-face and via email and have some discussion on how we move forward. The pandemic has actually hindered us in moving even our subcommittees forward because we're not able to get together as often as we had anticipated. The bylaws at the time that we had our retreat were working for us when we created our subcommittees to move forward. And so now that we've gotten a little bit of traction on our subcommittees, it was the intent that we do then move forward and have another full day retreat and talk about bylaws and other areas of the EAC so that all of our members have a better understanding of what our individual purpose is as an EAC member and what our group purpose is to move forward and how we interact with the Met Council and the work that they do. So I hope that's helpful on giving a little bit of history and background.
So I really have appreciated this input. I think I've heard two types of ways we could engage. One is to form a bylaws committee that's really focused on bylaws, which I think would be just fine, or to do it as a full EAC as a way of us getting engaged and familiar with our work and familiar with what we are intended to do, which I think would be fine as well. I don't know, Francisco, if you have a thought about a pathway forward or next steps.
Before going there, I just see that Jen has her hand raised. Jen, do you have any comments?
Yeah, just a general comment. I was just going to say, I don't have a lot of information about the Metropolitan Council. I simply applied on the website. And so, but since I am on the EAC committee and it is being invited to the public to participate, I would say that any way that I can engage and be a part of it, since it's an open invitation and you guys are inviting people to come in, and give their experiences or how they can contribute or, just anything that are within your agendas. I think it's very important to be involved on the bylaws because people will definitely bring those different things in, and it might change some of the things that are some of the work and inform some of the work that the Metropolitan Council does as a result. It doesn't have to, but it could. So that's all I would say.
Okay, excellent. And just to follow what Leah was indicating, couple of things, and this is for background. We have been talking about reviewing the bylaws for actually a number of years, and we had many discussions at regular meetings and also at the standing committees and also through email exchanges as to how to modify or what changes to make to the bylaws in order to make the EAC work better. So I just want to say that this didn't happen today or today's meeting. We had these discussions for a long time. As far as the actual recommendations that you would see that we made on the bylaws, those are again following up on advice and input from EAC members, and also from what we've seen as far as how can the EAC work better with staff and with the council itself, with the Met Council itself. So just trying to stress the point that this is not a new or sudden step and that we're just bringing stuff out of thin air. This is the result of a long process, years-long process of seeing where we can have more impact, and changing some aspects of the bylaws was part of what we thought we could do in order to have the EAC be more effective. Now, I'm still struggling with the idea of a committee simply because we've been there already. And what I would like to have is input from folks, but folks that had taken the time to review the bylaws, to consider them, the current bylaws, and also look at the draft that we have submitted, and then submit their observations to me and to Leah. and then we can put all of that together, and then we can have a discussion. But what I will hate to do is having this discussion last another 6 months. That will not be productive. And one of the reasons why I'm hesitant about that, or why I think that we should move forward sooner rather than later, is because we are in a good, I guess good is not the word. We are in a pivotal moment because of the pandemic and the George Floyd murder. I think that we have the attention of the council, especially the chair and the regional administrator. We had many discussions with them, internally, and I think that they get it, that the council, the Met Council, in addition to society in general in Minnesota, needs to move forward and change. But we cannot, but we must seize the moment, because I don't think that this window that we have right now, in which people are paying attention finally to communities of color and underserved communities, I don't think that's going to last forever, unfortunately. So moving faster, I think, is the way to go at this time within the Met Council. So again, if folks have specific input, we'll be more than happy to take that into account, and we can have one more meeting in which we can discuss the different suggestions that people had made, and if folks want to vote on those, that's fine. But what I will not advise is to have a long drawn out process. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
One place that we could use to discuss the bylaws, and I do appreciate that of some people will really want to be engaged in them, is at our standing committee meetings. Lila, I was just checking my calendar and I don't see those on my calendar. Can you remind me, do they happen on the week following the EAC meeting? So the next one would be on the 25th?
They're the third Thursday of every month. I just sent them out earlier today. Actually, I should double check.
Oh, they're supposed to be on Tuesday, so maybe there is an error. We can, why don't we connect about
standing committee meetings? Oh, okay. Yeah, then that's an error. So I will look into that and then change it.
So that's a place where we have a little bit more discussion around EAC business. So that could be one venue where we could have more of a discussion for those who are really engaged. And then potentially Francisco and I think what we'll do is set up one additional time for people who want to be engaged, but where the standing committee is not a good time for them to come. We'll set up one additional time, have a discussion, dig into them, make sure we have really good input moving forward before we adopt them, and yet still keep the momentum going as Francisco was describing. I do appreciate that that is important as well, and trying to balance both. So we'll look at some times and follow up outside of the meeting with both our standing committee time and a second alternate time where people can come and participate and get engaged.
Madam Chair, my hand is raised. The comments by our co-chair is, I'm not sure what the term is, but if equity has to be a seasonal thing, or they have to be fashioned when the climate is right, and now is the time, then we're in really, really big trouble. And I don't think the co-chair is implying, but could be right about how the Met Council operate, and that this is not necessarily anything other than window dressing, and they're not serious about taking all of our money and investing it in a fair and equitable kind of way. So we need to take advantage of the murder of a black man and these other things to elevate what they're supposed to be doing, which is the law. I'm not opposed to changing the bylaws, but, I've been here for a year. I've observed some things, so I could probably bring some knowledge to the table looking at the existing bylaws and say, based on my year worth of experience, these are some things that would be of value. I think some of the recommendations you put on the table in this meeting, if there are avenues to modify the bylaws in order to make those real, would be beneficial. But if I was just coming on and this was my first meeting and I have not had anything other than the orientation to the EAC, I would be at a big, big disadvantage. So to help those who are just starting out, is there any way we could work with staff to isolate all of this discussion about the bylaws and the reason for their changes to be codified in a manner that it could be distributed to us so that we can see what those comments were, what were the issues raised, the justification for any of the proposed modifications, so that we would have that background beyond the year that I've been here, to make it a little bit easier for me to draw on that vast experience and know that the decision to modify the bylaws has not just been left in the hands of a couple people, that it is in fact, and I have no reason to believe that these discussions and other things didn't occur. I would just like to have a chance to review them for myself to see if they align with what recommendations are being proposed.
Edward, the document that was included in today's packet, the packet for today's meeting, so sent by Lila on Thursday or Friday of last week, laid out what the current language is, what the proposed changes, and the justification. So you will see that in your packet that went out for tonight's meeting.
But there was nothing in there that indicate that those justifications came from conversations related to council meetings around this matter. I took it as if those were justifications that you two had put together, which I have no problems with. They were solid justifications, but it didn't tell me as a foundation for those were 5 years worth of discussion.
That's fair. They came from my experience and Francisco's experience. Mine as a member of the EAC before I became co-chair, and then Francisco's as co-chair was and feedback we've gotten throughout the years. So not from the council directly, they came from our experiences with the committee.
I see that, Kristen, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I just wanted to ask for some clarification. So from the beginning of the conversation, you basically were going to go over the bylaws, just you and Francesco, excuse me. And then you were going to email us just all of the changes kind of highlighted in a big document, and then we can make comments on it. That's what I would be comfortable with. I don't know much about bylaws. I don't think I could contribute anything helpful, just being a new member, and so reading them over and seeing the changes and making comments, I think that would be a great way to speed this process along.
And Betsy, I see you have your hand up also. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the conversation as well. I appreciate the remark of Councilperson Francisco in talking about capturing this moment. And while I hear what Edward is saying, and as frustrated as you are that it's happened this way, the killing of a Black man to create this moment, but also the reality, it's true. So where the bylaws, I appreciate the conversation, and I agree. I think for me personally, it's not necessarily something I would choose to get down in the dirt with, and I think if other people want to, I think that's great. But I also want to support the fact of us moving forward and taking advantage of this wonderful pool of people and capturing that moment in time. Thank you.
Okay, and if I can just clarify, what actually, Edward, I stated what I said about the moment exactly because of what you said. I mean, we have an election coming later this year. Who knows who's going to win? Governor of Minnesota, and whoever comes out might have different ideas about equity. And Chair Celia and myself and other council members will be replaced by other folks. So yes, this is the time, because we have no idea what's going to happen in 8-9 months down the road. And I've worked as you know, Edward, I've worked with state government before in a different agency, and I could see how changes in administration do change the tenor and the conversation with the different agencies. I mean, when I was at the Department of Labor and Industry, and we had a commissioner that was appointed by a Republican governor, it was impossible to get any discussions on equity or how to do outreach to immigrants and other folks that had difficulty in accessing the services, the departments of labor. And what that administration changed and some other folks came in place, that conversation not only became easier, but things got actually implemented. So I'm saying exactly what you said. Yes, this is the moment. And if we don't seize it, then things might not just not move forward, but it might even go back. And I ain't gonna trust the future on some voters, and I'm just gonna be frank, on some voters in outstate Minnesota that have no interest or in people of color or knowledge or any desire to see us prosper. And that might happen in a few months. So yeah, we need to move forward rapidly, as quickly as possible, because we might not have another chance in the future. Now, as far as this actual issue of the bylaws, I think that all the comments about, being more deliberate are fair. What I don't want what I would hope not to see is that we keep, stretching the process for more than a couple of months. I mean, on the one hand, we want folks to be involved. On the other hand, the proposals that we're making to change the bylaws, they're not that, crazy or exhaustive, or that they're gonna be, ridiculous. So I think that if folks take a look at them and want to have some discussions and offer suggestions, that's fine, but we shouldn't have a long drawn out process that takes months. And one last thing is that regardless of what we submit, regardless of what we agree at the EAC level, it's always up to the council to approve or deny the changes that we're making to the bylaws. So there will always be that last step before anything gets implemented, because the council as a whole has to vote on this, and that's my understanding of the process. So yeah,
Thank you,
I'll
Francis.
leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for your feedback and comments, and we will make more of a process for input, and one that allows us to move a little bit quickly. I'll just share, for me, my personal urgency is on close read. It has to do with how I became co-chair and how I understand my term, which is that last year we had a vacancy in the co-chair position. It wasn't very clear to me how a co-chair gets selected or appointed. I feel very fortunate to have been selected as the co-chair, but I would love for there to be a clearer process for next time around. And my understanding upon close reading of the bylaws is that my appointment was for 1 year, so I only have 3 months left. I do see that there is an opportunity for that to be extended for one more additional year, but I would love for there to be a clearer process before my co-chair term comes to an end, so that we're setting up this committee in a stronger position for selecting its leadership, for ensuring it has a full membership, and some of the other technical factors that we're recommending changes in.
I see that some folks still have their hands up. I don't know if Kristen or Betsy have additional comments. Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else have any additional comments?
Me, Mary Ann.
Oh, okay. I can't see you. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, doesn't it say in the bylaws at all on how to redo the bylaws and how many people should be taking care of that?
It does not.
Okay, well then maybe in the future we should be saying that.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
Because, you know, I mean, this is an important part of the EAC bylaws. So the fact that it doesn't even say that doesn't even make sense. I mean, I know you were appointed as a co-chair. That being said, that you only have 3 months left, you know, now you're running out of time. It just doesn't even make sense that we are now rushing to the deadline. So what do we do? Now you're gonna end up with 2 people doing this, taking care of this, whereas we, you know, if we're doing this every 5 years, which to me, normally really bylaws, you need somebody who knows the law. So a part of that really, if you need to have somebody to, if we need to get this discussion where it needs to be approved on the higher level, that's why you need people to, in our tiers, to have this approved in our table first. Once you get this together, have this approved in our committee, which means we need to understand our bylaws first and have the quorum and have this approved in our committee. Because if it's not approved in our committee, then how is that going to be approved in the higher level? So if we don't understand this in our committee, how is that going to be approved in the higher level? So if it's only the 2 of you knowing the bylaws and understanding the bylaws, and most of us not understanding the bylaws, well, how is that going to be approved in our committee?
Go ahead, Councilmember Lee.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Marian, you know, we're going is, I mean, no one is, whether this is your first meeting today or not, no one is being excluded.
Mary Ann.
Going forward, yes, Marian, no one is being excluded from the process as it currently is. And we all have the right to give input and submit our own kind of revisions to the 2 co-chairs before February 4th. So it's not a 2-person show as it is.
And really welcome your input. And again, we'll make time available to meet with you as well, so that if there's any places where you'd like more discussion or more history or background, would really welcome doing that.
Well, that's not what I'm trying to say. My input. The input should be like a discussion on the table where well, you know what? That's okay.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for your thoughtful and insightful comments. I appreciated them very much. We have 2 additional agenda items. One is we are going to talk about our standing committees. And for our members that are new to the Met Council and new to the EAC, Standing committees are other committees of the Met Council that provide input on specific topics. The 4 standing committees are management, transportation, community development, and environment. And we make space for our council members who also serve on those committees to give some reports about what they have been working on, what topics have come up, and potentially to identify things where we might want to collaborate with other committees. So we will do that.
Excuse me, I am on the management and transportation standing committees of the council. And before we came online tonight, I was discussing with Leah about what new issues or burning issues we have discussed lately on both of my subcommittees. For the life of me, I couldn't think of an issue that was really, more than just of the routine aspects of the running of the organization. So I will defer to Chai if he thinks of anything, especially from the management committee, because I just can't think of any new or burning issue that we have discussed lately.
Yeah, I concur with you. And in fact, the management has not had a meeting yet this month.
Maybe that's why. And again, as far as transportation is concerned, there's been reports that we have received about the progress on several of the lines that are being built, but nothing really that is new that hasn't been discussed or presented before. Now, another aspect that is not really from the standing committee is a separate initiative that the council is doing on developing around Met Council-wide strategic plan or Thrive for 2050. And we are in the first stages of that discussion, and we have a couple of members from, I believe, from the EAC who are also part of that effort. And we just had our first meetings this week on, just like we did earlier today on our EAC of setting up issues that we think are priorities for the EC to address. The council is doing the same for our own overall priorities. So that's a discussion that is happening right now. Again, it's just in the very early stages of the process as far as gathering input from non-staff. And I believe that there will be other opportunities down the road for regular folks from the community and also from EAC members to provide their input on the new Thrive plan for the council as a whole. So just keep tuned, and we will definitely send you updates as far as that process is going and when and where you can provide input on the developing plan for the council.
Hi.
Oh, am I next?
Yeah, if you have any other inputs.
Yeah, so on community development or CDC, there's 2 items of note I'd like to bring to your attention. I'm dropping them in the chat right now. The first item is from the January 3rd agenda. As we saw in Leah's highlight earlier for the year review, the CDC has been soliciting some of our input for the LHIA, which stands for Local Housing Incentive Account, the Affordable Homeownership Pilot. They came back to us 2 weeks ago on January 3rd with some really interesting examples of what the project will look like on 4 different sites in different cities, and what the numbers look like financially with the city match, and how the financing terms would go. So if you have a second, it's really a worthy presentation to go through and look at the different examples that are really exciting, because this program is supposed to help with homeownership disparity and get folks who have been historically marginalized to be able to buy their own homes. And then, so CDC will come back for to vote on this in the next month, and then it'll come before the full council, I think also later the same month, the next month, February. The other item just came from today. I came to this meeting from the CDC meeting that was moved from yesterday. We usually meet Mondays, but because yesterday was the Dr. King holiday, we didn't meet. So we met today, and the item of note for today was kind of a reflection and update on the initial round of LCA funding in the last year. So the Livable Communities Act came into place in '96, and it basically allows us to give out grants to cities who partner with developers to develop land. And we give out the grants once a year for development, and then twice a year for pre-development. And so in the last year, we changed or added a scoring criteria on equity. We added that a conscious call out on racial equity, in fact. And so this last year of the LCA funding was the first year that we had grants come through with that new scoring criteria. And so so the staff is going to go through and do a review of how that process went because of the new changes and how folks kind of reacted to it, whether there was a city or the developers, and what how smooth the process went, or how it didn't go well, or anything to do better the next round. So that's exciting. You could look at that presentation too to see some of the numbers that came out of the earlier presentation today. That's it.
Madam Chair, our housing committee have met with Tara and her staff regarding these matters. We have formally submitted recommendations for modifying the criteria as well as the design of the program, to particularly the local housing incentive account to achieve actual equity. Because as it's designed right now, with the proposed 20 units there to build, in fact, the money is targeted for developers, and there is no scoring criteria for actually closing, as it's stated, the homeownership gap, because there's nothing in the program right now that talk about the distribution of those units based on who is challenged by the severity of the gap between protected group members and white homeowners. So there's a lot of flaws in it. We've met with them. We've put our comments in writing. We're going back and forth. And I don't want to go into all the details in ours, and I'm sure our chairperson will address this when she returned, but I think the plan is to come without modifications, because they seem to be not necessarily interested in our comments or what we're suggesting in it, and is coming before the committee that will approve this to voice our concerns about a program that's really severely flawed and will not achieve what they purported will do, based on our opinions and our assessment of the program. So we are engaging with them on both fronts and have provided them in writing recommendations we think will straighten and achieve equity.
Leah, you're mute.
How about Betsy and then Ashanti? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just, I'm hoping you could forward, I know I just clicked on the chat, the CDC documents but it took me out of this meeting. Is there, I'm really curious at looking at them, and I'm specifically really interested in the equity piece that you say this committee put in. So is there a way we can get those forwarded to us, not just on this chat?
Yeah, I'll send it to Leah and Francisco to send it to the whole EAC group.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Ashanti. We don't hear you.
I'm sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
trying to figure out how to put my hand down.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Well, in our last few minutes, excuse me, we're going to move on to announcements, and just this is a time for our members to share things that are going on in their community, things that they would suggest our other members are paying attention to. I have one announcement that I'll share, which is today the federal government released their website for ordering free COVID tests, and so I'm going to drop that into the chat. Every household is entitled to several free tests. And since I'm going to cough, I'm going to pass it on to see if any others have announcements.
I do have an announcement. This is Kristen.
Go ahead,
I work-
Kristen.
Yeah, I work for the City of Brooklyn Park. So right now they have a city council election going on. I'm not sure if anyone's in that district or area, but I did want to announce that there's early voting until February 7th, and then the election date is February 8th. It's in the East District of Brooklyn Park. So I know there's 4 candidates running, and so it'd be good to pass that on to your community.
Excellent. Anyone else have any last
Yes.
comments?
Yes, this is Vanessa. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so Social Security just in the state of Minnesota, residents are now able to order a replacement Social Security card online. Prior to that, it was a pilot, and Minnesota was not included in that. They completed the pilot, and now anybody that needs a Social Security card, in lieu of the offices being closed, before you had to send in your documents by mail, and you had to send your original, and of course, who wants to send their passport or their driver's license or their state ID in the mail and wait weeks for it to come back and so forth. So now anyone can go to www.ssa.gov and they can do it online.
If I may, I
Just
tried
a
that.
couple things.
Just briefly. I tried to do that like 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't navigate. It's it already up and running?
Yes, it's up and running now. They did have some bugs, of course, and they worked those out.
Okay.
And so it is up and running, and it's free. It's no fee for a replacement Social Security card.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Edward, did you have any comments?
Just 2 things. February 1st caucuses. People should do some research around that and participate. I've been involved with the scenario planning exercise that the Met Council's been doing around climate, and in that they had asked that maybe someone from staff that's involved in the climate initiative be able to, at some point in the future, present to the EAC. So I just want to drop that in there while it was on my mind.
Thank you. Ashanti and Kristen, you still have your hands up. Do you have any last comments? Either of you?
This is Ashanti. I'm participating on my phone, and I'm sorry. I apologize. I cannot figure out how to. I can figure out how to put my hand up, but not take it down.
That's fine. Okay. Anything else? Any last thoughts from anyone before we adjourn?
Me.
Who's
It's
that?
me, Marianne.
Oh, Marianne. Oh, go ahead.
Well, Madam Chair, I just want to, well, I want to let everyone know, I really appreciate that I'm able to, um, join this meeting and just to be able to participate and speak my mind freely, so that we can, for the betterment of our community. And I'm looking forward to taking care of our people, and all the disparities issues. In fact, there's one that I think we really need to take care of is the transportation, which I wanted to make a comment a while ago, but I think you didn't see my handout. Is the transportation for people with disabilities from the ER to the ER and coming home from the ER for people with disabilities, free transportation for them. They don't get a ride home. I know insurance supposed to, but when it's after hours, they don't get the ride home. So maybe we can discuss that another time. So that's the disparity issue about that. Anyway, thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you. All right. Any last words, Leah?
No, thank you so much for spotting me while my computer crashed. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. If there isn't anything else, for this great discussion, I appreciate all the passion and all the interest and all the participation from all of you. I mean, that's the whole point of the EAC, is to have community input, not from staff or not from me or Chai, who are, appointed to serve in the council, but from community members who bring that outside perspective into the work of the Met Council. So that's exactly what we're trying to get. And thank you again for all your participation. So at this time, I'm just going to declare this meeting adjourned, and have a good night. Take care, everyone. Buenas noches.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.